Okay, we're okay.
I got a bunch.
All right, we're going to get started. Good evening, everybody. This is the Monday, December 19th meeting of the Select Board. With me, I have our clerk, Ellen Rosenfeld, our vice chair, Mr. Craig Schultz, and I am Erin Underhill, the chair. We also have Karen Bure DiMarzo, our assistant town administrator, HR director, and Mike Gazinski, our town administrator. We have a few interesting things on the agenda tonight, including our sewer policy discussion. But what I'm going to start with first, under announcements, is some recognition. We'd like to recognize Christine McCaffrey this evening. She has served for many years on the Council on Aging, and I do have a statement that I did want to read about Christine. Chris McCaffrey has served on the Council on Aging Board since May of 2017. She has tirelessly given her time and resources to benefit Millis seniors. If there is one word in particular that describes her, it would have to be dedication. My favorite memory of working with Chris is when we were, let me back up, this is from Patty Ko. You're probably thinking, when did you work with me? Okay.
This is very thorough.
Yes, right? Okay, now that we've gotten that out of the way, okay. My favorite memory of working with Chris is when we were cleaning out the center together and removed a huge tree that a senior had donated. We thought we were making the center more appealing for our seniors, but we were wrong. The next day, we faced the angry wrath of our seniors. The tree was immediately brought back in and peace was restored. Chris and I still refer to that tree as the darned tree. I have been blessed to get to know Chris both personally and professionally, and I thank her for her many years of friendship and guidance. She will be sorely missed. And that is from Patty Ko. So, Chris, we just wanted to take the opportunity tonight to say thank you so much for all your years of service and everything you've done from where I sit here, you've done with a smile. And it's been wonderful to see. So just wanted to say a few words and recognize you this evening. Anybody would like to add anything?
It was a pleasure working with you on things, and you'll be missed.
Yes, I agree. Everything you bring with insight and patience and brains, and you're going to be sorely missed. Maybe more than your husband, but I don't know. Maybe more. We'll have to vote on that later.
I'll miss you more than Jim.
Yes,
I was
please.
going to add too, so Chris, for those who don't know, also serves as our election warden, and which he is kindly staying on, correct, for a little while.
Yes,
Thank goodness.
So Chris does yeoman's work all the time for us. And you're right, she always does do it with a smile. She's always pleasant, organized, and goes after everything to get things done. So she's been great.
Thank you.
And a great voice for the seniors for a long time.
Yes.
Much appreciated.
I have enjoyed working on the Council on Aging. I really have. I've been there for 6 years, and it was time to move on and to let some new people come in, younger people, with younger seniors, or to come in with some new ideas to try to liven everything up, and hopefully we can move on towards a new senior center way sometime down the line, and the new members can help do that. But I really enjoyed working on the senior center, or working in the senior center. I loved working with the people in there. The seniors themselves are just a delight to work with and to spend time with. To sit and have coffee with them, or to go in and I get my donut in the morning and sit there. And it was nice. I really did enjoy it. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
I appreciate
Thank
the
you.
recognition.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can we get a photo?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
sure.
Sure.
If she's not in it, I'm not doing it.
What should we
I think we
do?
should
We'll,
probably
we
You
can
want to stand in front of the,
front.
stand in front of the
Yeah.
flower? We'll stand up there. I put you on Facebook, Chris.
Oh my goodness.
On the town page. I'll warn you in advance.
Okay.
My chin's up, gonna get it a little closer. You've got the, wait a minute, one more, because you guys were like, all I can see is this, sorry. All right. One more. Say cheese. Very nice, thank you. Thank you.
I appreciate it. No, no.
No,
Oh, no, that won't happen. You're still stuck with me for a while.
We know where you
Count the
live.
votes here.
We know where you live.
Yes.
Hi, Bert Lannon, I'm chairman of the Council on Aging Board, and I'd just like to say to Chris, have the board, staff, and all the volunteers, thank you from the bottom of my heart for everything you've done for this. And everything you've done, you've worked so hard, especially in this last project, which didn't end up the way we hoped it would.
Right.
But we did a lot of things together, and I remember working with you on reorganizing the library and everything, but again, thank you so much. We all love you.
All right.
All right.
Well, that was a good way to start the meeting, so thank you. All right, so the next thing we have on our agenda is the appointment of the chair of the school building committee. We need to appoint a chair for the school building committee and report that to the MSBA. So the school building committee met and voted to have Richard Nichols serve as the chair of the school building committee. So I'm looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion. I don't have an agenda, I'm all screwed up today, but I'm opening the computer now. I'll make a motion to appoint Rich Nichols for the, as chair of the school building committee. Now you say second.
Oh, second.
Okay.
I'm so busy making fun of you, I forgot to say
Yeah.
second.
That's why I was quick
It's
to
been
jump
moved
on
and
that.
seconded to appoint Richard Nichols as the chair of the school building committee. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Next, we have a hearing for Eversource location of conduits and manholes at Main Street. Yes, please.
I'll make a motion, we open the hearing.
Oh,
I didn't see
yes.
that there.
No agenda, no script, I'm just.
Oh, my gosh, thank you.
I'll make a motion, we open the hearing.
All right.
On Matt.
I
Second.
see you on Zoom, so I
Okay.
wasn't paying attention.
It's been moved and seconded to open the hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
The hearing is open. Yes.
Christine Crosby, Eversource Energy, and we are requesting permission to install approximately 58 feet of conduit at pole 9 over 32 Main Street. And the purpose of that would be to provide electric service, underground electric service to 3 new buildings that are being constructed out there.
Okay, excellent. Does anybody on the board have any questions?
No, I'd just like to say, hi, Christine. We've spoken on the phone many,
Many
many times. That's awesome.
Always so good to work with.
Oh, that's
You know,
such a pleasure, because I used to scream at you all the time. No, I didn't. I
No,
didn't.
no.
It was
No,
everybody
you and I
before
worked
you.
very well.
Yes, we
yes.
did. You were my last resort.
Nice to put a face with a name,
It's
right?
fabulous,
Yeah.
fabulous.
I think Ellen should make the motion.
I will, I'm going to make the motion. Whatever Christine wants,
She
I
gets-
move to
I was just
that.
gonna note too that this is a hearing, and so the abutters were notified.
Okay.
So this is not, we're not just surprising people with this, that's why.
Okay. Does anybody from the audience have any questions or comments? Okay. Hearing none, how about we close the
I'll
hearing?
make a motion to close the hearing.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded to close the hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Hearing is now closed. So I think we need a motion to approve the location.
I'll make a motion to approve the location for the
Conduits and manholes
conduits and manholes
at Main Street.
on Main Street. Thank you.
Second.
I'm gonna get this open in a minute.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the order for location for conduits and manholes on Main Street. And I'll just note it's work order 875-9643. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Easy one.
Happy holidays.
You too.
Thank you.
Holidays.
Okay. The next thing we have on our agenda is We're like 5 minutes early. We
Yeah,
should
so
probably
I'd probably
wait.
I'd probably recommend you move ahead to the next item, the review and approval of community impact contract.
Okay.
Excuse me. Can you just pass that to Craig?
Oh, that was really nice.
I'm almost there, actually. I'm in
All
my
right.
email now.
He wants you to be lost.
Okay, so
Yeah.
we're just gonna move forward to one thing before the sewer piece, so that we're on time. We're gonna review and approve the community impact contract for January through June 2023.
So,
Mr.
Madam-
Kaczynski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The board enclosed in your packet is the contract with Community Impact for the period of January 1st, 2023 to June 30th, 2023 for your review and approval. The funding for this contract was approved at the recent Fall Town Meeting. The funds for this contract derive from HCA impact funds. We currently have a contract with Community Impact which expires this December 31st. We've had very positive feedback from department heads in the community as to the work of this group, and I'm recommending that the board vote to authorize me to execute the contract for the second half of the fiscal year in an amount not to exceed $35,000.
I'll make a motion to extend the contract for the current fiscal year for Community Impact in an amount not to exceed $35,000.
Second?
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the community impact contract not to exceed $35,000. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
How about water and sewer commitments?
There you go.
All
That's
right.
what I was thinking myself.
Okay. We're also going to knock out our water and sewer commitments.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In your packet are some water and sewer commitments. The first is for the month of November 2022 for the water and sewer commitment for a total of $2,319.82. And I'm requesting the board's approval of that commitment.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the December water and sewer commitment for $2,319.82.
Second?
Okay.
This month of November, I'm sorry.
November,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the water sewer department commitment for November 2022 in the amount of $2,319.82. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. And Madam Chair, the second commitment is for the quarterly bill run for the second quarter of fiscal year 2023. This is for water and sewer, as well as the cap assessment and cross fees and the on and off fees, for a total of $844,043.91. I'd request the approval of that commitment as well.
I'll make a motion to approve the quarterly commitment for the water sewer fees from $844,043.91.
Second?
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the quarterly bill run commitment for the second quarter for the water and sewer commitment in the amount of $844,043.91. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. I think we're pretty much on time
Yeah,
now.
we're pretty much
Yeah,
on
we're
time now. Okay. All right.
I had a
So
paper
the next thing on our agenda is to discuss a sewer policy. We have put together a sewer policy. Ellen has done a lot of work on this, so thank you, Ellen. We put together a sewer policy that the intent of this policy is to be a guide for the board in terms of what projects we would be looking at and what things we would be approving with the given capacity that we have available. It's obviously more detailed than that, but we wanted an opportunity to put out the policy as it exists and open up to a discussion of any residents that wanted to ask any questions or make any statements this evening. So before we open that up, I'm going to turn it over to Ellen in case you'd like to say a few words.
Actually, Ellen, sorry, just one quick. So I know you said you brought some with you. There was a small change at the 11th hour to the sewer policy, so I don't know if you guys have the ones that you printed are the last ones. It was just a small, so that we printed out copies of them.
It's a,
Scott has.
it's a single line on page 2.
Right.
It's a single line on page 2
Single
or
line
under
on
sewer
page 2, I don't think it's
commission.
The last
highlighted on those,
sentence,
unfortunately.
last
Yeah.
sentence of the sewer commission
Yeah,
definition.
it's a small change, but
Yeah, I'll tell you what the change is,
Yeah.
just so you're, Jim.
which everybody
It's
has it.
the sewer commission, page 2. There's a line inserted at the end of that paragraph that reads, "The sewer commission may, at its sole discretion, delegate certain powers and duties under its authority to the town officials and/or boards." So it just gives the select board the ability to delegate should they choose.
All right, so before we start with further questions and discussions, I'm going to turn it over to Ellen.
Yeah, I just, there's another typo. You want to see the typo? Should
Yeah,
I
what
let you know? On page 3, 2B, it says after such the lapse of, it should say after the lapse of any such
Oh.
deadline.
Any such.
Sorry. On page 3, 2B, it says after such the lapse, it's just a misplaced, it should say after the lapse of any such deadline. And then on page 4 at the top, after the word shown, there should be a period. We're missing a period for whatever reason. Do you see that?
Did you say on page 4? Sorry.
Yeah.
Page 4, right at the top, first paragraph.
Should
So
end in a period.
Oh, yeah.
you're just missing the
Yeah.
the dot.
Okay.
So this policy is a policy, it's not a bylaw. It's for guidance only, so that when people come to Millis and with hat in hand maybe, they'll at least know what direction to go in with projects or even with their own residents, what to do. So it is just, we have nothing in place, so it's kind of all over the map. And this is just a guidance document to support the bylaws that the Board of Health has, or the Planning Board. It's not, again, it's not a bylaw, so it's not as exacting as that. It's just for guidance, so keep that in mind, that it's also a living, breathing document, and hopefully, if and when we do appoint a sewer board, which we have been talking about, they can work on some things and maybe add or take away in the future, because it is a living, breathing document. And there's even language in here that we will look at things yearly, so that opens us up to making changes.
Okay, excellent. So we'll open that up, it up now to any public comment, questions, anything.
I have one question before we get to the public,
Sure.
if that's okay. On page 3, section C, number 1, 75% of this total capacity shall be held in reserve for the sewer commission. Is this saying that out of the 100% that's there, we're going to base our capacity issue at 75% of that for those that have paid a betterment?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, 75%, yeah, I mean, that's.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know.
I know that's a realistic number.
Yeah.
I just wonder if the CRPCD is going to have any issues with that or not, but we can find out if they do.
We can find out,
Yeah, okay. I was just making sure I read it correctly.
yes.
Yeah. And then the second question I had was same section, number 3, emergency reserve capacity.
Mm-hmm.
I know they want us to sit at 5% capacity, so we never build past 95.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't done any studies or looked at it. I
Nope.
don't know what the reality of emergency areas where there is environmentally sensitive areas that if a septic system failed. And it can sit at 5 now because, as you pointed out, this can be changed quickly, but if the Conservation Commission comes and says we have to reserve more, we can add that in.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah. Okay, those are my only 2 comments.
yes.
Yeah, that's the beauty of this, in that it isn't a bylaw, it is something that the board can change, you know, like Ellen said, living, breathing document, so it gives us some flexibility.
I'm done. Yeah.
You knew I'd be here.
Yes, of course.
Kathy McInnes, 78 Island Road. I have a question for, and I'm going to read because I make sense when I read. I don't make sense when I don't read. A question for everyone here. Where were you 15 years ago? 2007. Well, while you were hopefully enjoying life, the Millis Planning Board, consisting of elected members Brutus Cantoreggi, Nicole Riley, James McKay, George Yared, and me, were meeting with residents who lived on Orchard Street. Why? Those residents were about to incur several years of hardships, both to themselves and especially their motor vehicles, as a result of the proposed 300-plus unit senior residential development located at the former Glen Ellen Country Club. And let's not forget the road disturbances this same neighborhood endured while the Orchard Street Historical Bridge was constructed between the years 2003 and 2005. In negotiations with the developer and abutters, the planning board secured a condition that the developer would place sewer stubs at each residence to allow a tie into the town sewer system. A condition also included the placement of a much larger sewer and water stub at those streets intersecting with Orchard Street for future sewer and water hookups on those streets. Also included was the construction of a major sewer lift located at Middlesex and Orchard Streets to accommodate pumping this proposed sewage. The planning board unanimously supported this, and the project began. Now, with the sweep of a pen, the select board will erase the goodwill and intentions of an elected board, a board that heard several years of testimony from abutters. Remember that Toll Brothers was the second company before the planning board on this development. The original application was dated March 6, 2007 by Corcoran and Jennison, the owners of the Glen Ellen Country Club. I ask what message this sends the residents of the town in which you hold the highest elected office, that any negotiations and decisions of other boards, elected or appointed, are a waste of time because the select board can determine that these good deeds are null and void? Is that what? You see, back in the olden days, the prior town administrator convened a monthly meeting, oftentimes twice a month, with board liaisons invited. Select board, planning board, ZBA, building commissioner, Board of Health, Concom, DPW director, Board of Health director, to name a few. Informal discussion of all projects before each board took place, collectively with each person advancing comments and suggestions based on his or her knowledge, experience, and expertise. And we trusted each other. Perhaps, Madam Chair, you might request the town administrator to reinstitute these helpful meetings to acquaint the various boards with the projects not before them. Much can be learned, especially by the town. What did I learn from my colleagues? That land use affects every board and department. I heard from the Conservation Commission about the oversaturation of Millis land because of increased development, resulting in rain draining into catch basins rather than recharging our important groundwater. I learned the Board of Health was troubled by additional drainage phosphate fertilizers going into the ground because of increased residential construction. And everyone was especially concerned about the loss of green space, which back then was a fairly new concern in the area of people's health. That's not good. Sewer allows land that will not accommodate a conventional septic system due to a high water table to now be built on. But did you know that there are now septic systems that fully operate in a home's cellar? These have been installed in communities with, for example, large ledge formations in towns like Essex. As you've heard me say many times, if a parcel cannot perk to include a septic system, then, as was the, quote, policy, quote, in the past, said parcel was deemed unbuildable. Both the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Department of Environmental Protection, and the Charles River Pollution Control District require 440 gallons per day per 4-bedroom residence to be set aside. The Select Board argues that these two important policy-making departments use a, quote, very conservative, quote, to quote a Select Board member, design flow rate. I speak on behalf of many of us who have been involved in land use in Millis that a conservative flow rate is not only necessary, but should be mandated. Let me explain. The number of individuals living in a single-family residence continues to grow. The Millis zoning bylaws, with approval by the Zoning Board of Appeals, allow for family units within or attached to a single-family residence to permit the homeowner's parents, relatives, grown children with their children, etc. It is not just now dad, mom, 2.5 children, and a dog and cat. Our housing is multi-generational. Please note that a family unit is not a requirement. 4 bedrooms can accommodate many, many unrelated individuals. That is but one important reason to adhere to the daily flow rates required, not recommended, by the Commonwealth. Because it is unknown how many people will live in a residence in the future, it is essential that the initial requirements not now be amended. We read more and more about children remaining with their parent or parents longer and longer. I have not read anything that this is a temporary phenomenon. Have you? Not only does the Commonwealth require that a discharge amount of 440 gallons per day for each residence for 4 bedrooms be set aside for discharge, but also the state law known as Title V requires individual septic systems be constructed so as to accommodate this discharge amount. I'd like to ask, Madam Chair, will you now amend these requirements?
We're having a discussion this evening.
That's right, these are the questions. Discharge rates have been developed over the years based on expertise of many individuals more qualified and smarter than we are. You are now lowering the current amount discharge rates. Is that what you're doing? You are lowering the current amount discharge rates. A few months ago, during a Select Board untelevised Friday morning meeting, one member asked the others, "How do you know the police chief needs extra officers?" And 2 of you replied in unison, "Because he said so." Similarly, the state requires a certain amount to be allocated per sewer hookup. Why? Because they said so. Why does the current version remove any language involving the authority of the director of the DPW? Under the most recent version, the Select Board will now hire an engineering consultant and a peer review consultant. Madam Chair, could someone please tell me what a peer review consultant is?
Are you I
I'm
don't
just,
know.
I'm asking all my questions through the chair, and the chair can
Okay.
answer
Okay,
or.
well, we can wait till the end. Can we
Well,
wait?
no, let's answer as we go along, if you don't.
A peer-
Okay, no, let's go, go as the chair wishes.
Wait,
Okay, why don't we pause, and we'll answer that one first. So, Ellen, do you want to speak to that?
Well, where is the peer review where are we talking about in this document?
I don't have the page noted on it, Madam Chair, but.
All right, let me
it
look.
I don't
is-
know what your reference is.
It
that
says
we're
it
gonna-
must be by a peer.
What?
Can I ask who wrote this, so that they can answer? He or she can answer?
I worked on this.
Okay. So you put language in there regarding a peer review consultant.
Sure, but.
Hold on, we're searching.
Do a search, Craig, on your computer for it.
I can't find the word review, or consultant, and I'm not
Last
100%.
Well, it's a.
Last page?
Yeah,
Okay.
but
Thank
that
you,
has
Madam
to do,
Assistant.
but that has to do with requests for sewer connection or sewer extensions may be reviewed by the sewer commission's peer review consultant at the applicant's expense.
What
That's for
is
an
that?
extension. A peer review? You were on the planning board for 30
Yeah,
years.
the planning board has a peer review. Now you're telling me that the sewer ratepayers are also going to be paying for a peer review?
No, it's at the
No.
applicant's
Applicant's
expense.
expense.
No.
It's at the applicant's
But
This
expense.
is if
regardless-
somebody wants to do a sewer extension in
Right.
Millis,
Right.
and they present their plans to us, we may, if we don't have the expertise, hire at their
At their expense.
yes.
Another review. Madam Chair, you and the Vice Chair and a former Select Board member were on the now disbanded Enterprise Funds Advisory Committee. This committee included a member of the Board of Health, Conservation Commission, the Franklin DPW Director, a private engineer, the Board of Health Director, the DPW Director, Mr. Kaczynski, the Town Administrator, and me. I hope both of you learned as much as I did. Several ideas were considered during the committee's short life that are not in this proposed policy, such as, 1, a discounted tie-in fee that is currently $4,000+. The DPW director stated that the town incurs no cost associated with this tie-in. Number 2, a more affordable arrangement to dismantle the residents' empty septic system prior to the sewer tie-in. There are towns that allow just to be filled in and not removed. 3, prior to the sale of a residence with the currently allowed tie-in, the seller must tie in. Then, Mr. Germain suggested that a daily fine be instituted with exceptions to those homeowners who fail to connect. Unfortunately, the Millis residents have not heard the Select Board discuss its reasoning for what the current policy includes, I believe. Also, Madam Chair, your initial sewer policy required a minimum of 75% affordable units, which language you stated came from the town of Hubbardston. It is imperative and only fair that developers know outright what is required of their projects, not a policy, a bylaw. Why is that not included anymore?
Because that's no longer part of the policy. This is what we're discussing this
Okay.
evening.
And the planning board is discussing a affordable requirement, not at that level because of other reasons, but I think they're looking at 20 or 25% at least as a mandate.
They are.
And we felt that would be best addressed through a bylaw than a policy, because a policy is set by this board. So that will be done through bylaw, and the planning board is leaning towards 20 or 25% at this moment. I don't know which the number is.
Not the 75% that the chair?
I think that was,
No.
It was very draft, throwing out ideas,
yeah.
and that's not what we've
Yeah,
chosen to go
this
with.
should be, this draft here should be the draft that you're speaking to, not previous drafts. That's why,
What
And-
previous
and-
drafts? I went by what was current, except for the changes tonight.
Well, the 75% that you're referencing, all of that is a past draft that we're no longer discussing,
But you seem so passionate about it, Madam Chair. I'm wondering why it's off the table now.
because I don't feel it's necessary.
Oh, okay.
But thank
okay.
you.
Okay. My notes and those of the DPW director show that town council was in attendance at one or more Zoom meetings held by the Enterprise Funds Advisory Committee. Our notes show that he stated that the town cannot arbitrarily remove either those residents that the planning board allowed to tie in or those that have already paid a betterment fee. Unfortunately, many of this committee's Zoom meetings are not on the town's website. And through the chair, may I ask the town administrator, who attended all meetings and was, quote, "in charge" of the recording, if he currently has access to those Zoom meetings?
If you could
Perhaps
let
you
us
can
know
let
what
me know.
specific ones you'd like, we can certainly look into that for you.
In any event, I now agree with a member of this honorable select board who stated that you can get town council to say whatever you want him to say. In this entire document, I have not read one paragraph that supports the residents of Millis, except if you have paid a betterment. All I read is a select board that is making a reality of dreams of developers to come in and overuse and ruin the sensitive remaining land in Millis for their profit at the expense of you and me, and you, and you, and you. I believe 2 of you did not seek office to allow developers to abuse land in Millis. You sought the position for other reasons, especially to protect us. This policy does not protect us, Madam Chair. May I suggest the Select Board continue the moratorium and appoint a committee to at least include one member of the Board of Health, the Conservation Commission, and the Conservation Commission to advise you on all aspects of a bylaw addressing the needs of us residents, and not just a mere policy that promotes unnecessary development. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments?
I
Sure.
would just address a point or two if I
Okay,
could for a moment.
sure, please.
The discounted tie-in fee is something that's still on the table,
Yes.
absolutely. I think at least, the discounted tie-in fee is something that's absolutely on the table, but that doesn't rise to the level of a policy decision. That's an annual set the rate kind of discussion. So just because it's not in here doesn't mean it's not something we're considering doing. The affordable dismantling of septic, we can discuss that further also as a separate item. But the policy was designed to, number one, comply with the Charles River Pollution Control District's desire that we have a policy, because we really didn't have much. And number two, to try to come up with a clear understanding of what our capacities and our flow rate and all those items are. And the last point I just discussed from the comments you made, and there's a few, but this is the last one. The tie-ins on sale was discontinued after the outrage that came out of the community on that one when it was proposed as part of, even as a compromise on part of the ill-fated bylaw we tried to push through. So that was a mistake to put in there because people are planning to sell in the year or two that have a modern septic system, really saw that as a huge hit to their property values. So, that's why that's out of there. But the discounted tie-in fee is absolutely something that's on the table that I'd like to get, not into the policy, but just into the fee structure. I mean, that's a
Right.
different area.
Yeah, let me just add one thing, Kathy. We purposely didn't put in a fee schedule because we felt that we wanted a little bit more flexibility than having it.
Yeah.
So it is still on the table.
So tell me what this policy does, Madam Chair. What is this supposed to do? How is it supposed to inform people and regulate? What is a policy? It's just what, 3 people agree and then the next board can change and change and?
Well, it's not what 3 people agree, it would be, Madam Chair, I'm sorry. It's
No,
what
go
the
for it.
3 sewer commissioners agree. So yes, the next board, the next set of sewer commissioners can modify and change it. But it's a policy that lays out what the
Can
priority.
recommend modification. It's ultimately up to the select board as the sewer commissioners
Sure, they're the
right,
same
right,
people.
to make the final determination, so.
But if 2 of the 3 of the select board would like to change it, then that would change it. But the idea is to, number 1, spell out definitions, as we've done. Number 2, spell out capacity and how it's computed, which we've done. Spell out priorities, which we've done in Section E. And proposed developments that encourage affordable housing is at the top of the list. And to the extent that an extension to a proposed development will hinder the town's ability to establish sewer systems elsewhere. Oh, that's the wrong line. Where was it? Someplace in here, the second one. To the extent that the proposed development improves the character and neighborhood of the town is our
Right.
second priority. So we did take.
What does that mean? How does the residents that perhaps can't perk, a subdivision that does not perk, how does it enhance the neighborhood when people downstream on Acorn Place now have water in their cellars? And the developer bought them dehumidifiers. Who determines what?
The sewer commission determines, just as the appeals board determines if something's in the character of a neighborhood. It's not just the downstream. You take all the circumstances of the project that would come before us, all the
What,
circumstances.
such as, Madam Clerk?
If it fits with the neighborhood, if it has an affordable housing component, if we have sewer available at the time, there's a whole host of characters to look at. So we would look at all of them, and you could come to the meeting, it would be an open meeting, you could come and propose, well, did you look at this, did you look at that? And we would look at this and that, because we listened to you, Kathy.
I've never read a policy, Madam Chair, that defines words. That's a bylaw. That's your Millis zoning bylaws are doing the definitions. Here you have a policy that defines the policy words.
I don't think there's anything wrong with having it in there. I think it's helpful for the document to be
helpful, yeah.
clear. And just one other thing to note, we're not going to have capacity forever. At some point, we will no longer have
We
capacity.
don't have it now, Madam Chair, to interrupt, I'm sorry.
Sure.
We don't have
But
it now.
eventually, we won't have any capacity. So any further projects would have to either build a package plant, or they would have to put in a septic as well. So we're not saying that this is a thing forever. This is for right now, where we currently sit. This is
And
our
I
policy.
heard the Vice Chair speak about Braun property being used for package treatment. Is a private builder going to
I-
put it on it,
I
or
wanna
is it
be
for a
clear
town
that
project?
I never said it was, I said that's an option. for
Option,
it.
of course.
Yeah, and there's a lot of options. I said it could be a senior center.
So who
It
who
could
would
be
put a
a-
package treatment plant on it,
It
Ms.
could be a
Madam Chair?
developer who
Could be
pays
the
for it, it
town.
could be the town, it depends on what our goals are. If our goal is to put another.
Who buys the land and puts it on, or we just
No, I
let
would-
them have the
I would say,
land?
I mean theoretically, and I'll just say it theoretically, because I've talked to Jim about it a little bit too, as a possibility. If somebody were to develop in the center of town where there is no parking, there is no land, there is no way to put a septic in, and they built a package plant and we put 400 homes on it as an offset, it would reduce our capacity by 400 homes, which would then theoretically allow room for the developer. But it's expensive and it's not a likely outcome,
No.
but it's
So
a possible
through the
outcome.
chair, is the developer going to buy the Braun property? Or,
These
I
are
think we're
all-
way too far
Yeah.
early on that.
no, we're really not, because you've mentioned
We
it.
really
so-
are, because we're not entertaining it right now. So
Yeah.
that is not part of this
And
discussion.
no, it doesn't have to, yeah,
No, but-
it can be hashed out. yeah.
But to be fair, when you did speak of it, no, the town would retain it.
Right.
And the town would retain control, and maybe the town would build it and build the developer. He was just throwing out options for the Braun property.
The beauty is we have choices.
That's
Right.
right. And again, the living, breathing document allows for the future.
A living, breathing document that really is a policy that has no teeth in it.
Okay, well, we're going to move on to
Right.
some other comments. Thank you. Sure.
Jim Duffy, 343 Exchange Street, Millis. So I have no history on commitments the town made to Orchard Street residents, for example, but sounds like there were some that I would urge that they get reviewed, because.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you, Jim.
Yeah, it sounds, I wasn't there, it sounds like the town made some commitments to the Orchard Street residents
Okay.
that I think should get reviewed. So
Okay,
there
well-
should be some records, et cetera. That's-
Okay.
Regarding fees, I heard the town council at one meeting say the fees for anything at the town levies should be reflective of town expenses regarding that. Again, no comment on whether that's the case or not, but $4,000 for a sewer tie-in, I don't know what our burdened labor rate is, but that would indicate a fair number of hours related to that. And I don't know if that's right or wrong, but wanted to bring that up. My question, you'll have to educate me a little bit, is we have finite resource. How is it going to be preserved or extended? This doesn't do that I see. The planning board has, I'll say responsibilities, I don't know what the right word is, but they have developers come before them. Is it the planning board's job to say, we're going to require a packet treatment plant versus, or require individual septic systems? And then I know the Board of Health has responsibility for septic systems. I'm failing, and I haven't been at this very long, to see the overarching umbrella that says, with respect to liquid household waste, for lack of a better term, what are our either bylaws, policies, whatever it is that says Board of Health will approve septic systems, yada, yada, yada. Planning board will mandate that, whatever, developers have to do this, that, or the other thing that ultimately stretches out our capacity for as long as we can possibly stretch it out. And certainly we need some other things. So can somebody help me understand how all of that happens such that we can,
Well, you want to take it? You
No,
want me to?
because I don't have an expertise.
A developer comes to the planning board and lays out his or her plan. At that point, they have a conversation. We know at that point what our capacity is, and we make a decision it depends on how many units, what kind of development. Maybe there's there's plenty of capacity for it, at which point we let them hook on and pay the fees. If not, they can do septic, they can do their own package treatment plant. We would work with DPW, Planning Board, the Select Board, to see on the particular project what its needs are and what we have to fulfill those needs. So I can't tell you, I can't. Yes,
Thank you.
Jim, you certainly can tell.
Thank you. So Jim McKay, Director of Public
Thank
Works.
you.
So what happens is a developer comes in, he brings the plans to the planning board as stated. There's no question about that. At the same time, the developer also files a water and sewer extension permit with the Board of Selectmen,
Acting as
Select
water and
Board,
sewer
as
commissioners.
working, acting
Yes.
as the commissioners. That is heard at the exact same time. Those hearings are both done together. And actually, we encourage the developer to go to the Select Board first to see if that capacity is there. The question, the Board of Health have their own regulations. We do not, the Select Board have their elected officials. They maintain all the septic systems, wells in the town of Millis. They're all under their jurisdiction. They're not under the Select Board's purview, and they have and there's bylaws that can take care of that, that answer those questions.
Madam Chair, I just wanted to add, and I don't know if it's helpful or it's not, but when we do the water and sewer connections, when someone applies for that, I personally send it out to all of the chairs of all of the other boards, Board of Health, Planning Board, Concom, and ask if anybody has any interest in giving us any kind of feedback, so that when it does come to the board, that at least we're including all of the other boards that are around. So just FYI, there is some process to it.
Thank you. I would recommend that we probably draw up some guidelines that say developments of X, Y, and Z sizes are probably preferred to have, I'll use the term packet treatment or whatever, in an effort to extend the life of our sewer capacity, right? My takeaway from what I heard is, well, we could, I'll be flip and say, flip a coin on a certain development versus really having some standards that would lay out what we expect of developers coming forward in an effort to maintain as much capacity as we have for as long as we can, because there's probably a big bill at the end of that road.
Thanks, Jim.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Okay.
So, we all remember I was a little passionate about this in the last couple of meetings, and I'm going to try to keep my comments to a minimum. So I speak as a resident of Millis that has the ability to, that front sewer. I did not pay abandonment, and I don't like the idea of losing that ability. I know I'm not losing the ability. If I want to tie in today, I can do it, but my septic system's working, and I find no reason to do it. It's a very expensive procedure. You're talking 18 to 20-something thousand dollars. And I was lucky that a development was built beside my house, and the sewer line runs right down the street, so I have the ability to tie into it. I want to thank the selectmen that I did meet with on this issue last week and this week. Craig, you just weren't here, and that's fine. Many of the statements that Kathy, that, I think she remembers it from different meetings. I don't see much difference of anything that she stated. Whether, you can take it for what it's worth. My big concern are still with the Millis residents that on, and not only Orchard Street, we're talking Acorn Street, we're talking Farm Street, and there's many, multiple homes that could someday, 10, 5, 15 years, could lose the ability because a developer is going to come in and take their capacity because we're not counting them in the percentage to hold off on it. I think, the board has a right to do anything they want. They can, whether it's a policy or, and I tend to agree, and I think I expressed to both the select board that I met with, I do believe it's a bylaw. I think it's a change of life, and I think it should be acted as because there's many aspects in it that's going to change the way multiple Millis residents can go forward, with their life. There's a lot of stuff that I think that needs to be done with the policy before it's actually even enacted. You know, we have percentages. What are those percentages? It states, I believe it states in the policy that you're gonna review those numbers once a year. Well, if you're enacting it right now, you need to have those numbers, I think, in this policy before it's, because no one knows what those numbers are. And I think the only way that's gonna happen is, and again, I stated this when I met with both of you, and maybe it's Craig so he can hear me, you know, for the first time. You know, we were promised, Millis residents were promised in May that you were gonna appoint this committee. It was never stated that we were gonna have to wait until a policy was written. And I think it's, you know, one of the people that's probably been on the committees, you know, the Water and Sewer Commissions the longest is myself and maybe Ed Chisholm and Brutus. You know, we're kind of puzzled that the select board would come up with a policy without it being reviewed by a committee, and given advice. So I would ask that before you actually institute this policy, that you send it to the, you know, you can vote on it, that this is your policy, but until those numbers are actually, those percentages, because we do have it, you know we have it, we have how many residents have paid a betterment, we know those numbers and what they are, we know how many people front sewer, we know how many people actually got a free stub from a developer. So those are the three major issues that we're talking about. And I think we're gonna come out with, and the biggest thing that I'm puzzled with is the 5%. We're gonna hold a 5%. 5% of what?
Capacity.
Of what?
Capacity.
What number? Are we
Total
talking?
capacity.
So 640, what's 5% of 647 gallons of?
644,000?
640, you don't have to answer that now. I mean, I'm not, but
He
I
only does
think,
math.
but
I'd
I
have to
think
take my
that
shoes off to do
32,000.
that.
32,000.
Yeah.
So if you add
I can
that,
math.
if you do that 32,000 gallons along with all what we know with the Millis, what's promised out there, I think you're gonna find out that you're not gonna have anything left to even, to lift but,
Yeah, well, that's exactly what I was going to get to, so
right.
thank you.
So I think that send it to the committee, have them plug in those numbers for you, and maybe look at a couple of things here, because I think there's a lot in it that may be a little redundant, and I appreciate, you know, Ellen met with us today, and she, you know, some of the changes were made from some of my recommendations. So, again, I'm not disputing the right. We elected you to sit there, and you have a right to make a policy, and so I would
Yeah.
ask that you send it back to the committee. Thank you.
I would like to propose we add the addendum with the numbers computed the new way, you know, because we've changed the formula. We have the old computation that came out in the email. We've both done it, but I mean, if the town would sign off on it, you know, excluding the non-betterment paying
Yeah, yeah.
people. So we'd get a full number,
Yeah,
deduct.
I know the
so-
number.
Yeah, so, well, let's get it from the town. Yeah, I did the number too.
Okay.
So, but, I mean, it's math. So,
Yeah, 'cause if
And you
we are
should
gonna
know
go
that.
over it yearly, then.
yeah, I
Okay.
mathed it in my head.
Sense.
And so subtract the 32,000, subtract everything we've got,
Yeah, I
put that in as the addendum, and maybe it does need to be reviewed annually or after every adjustment, you know, every time there's a connection occurs, or
Well,
several connections. If it's
Yes.
just a house, it doesn't count.
Yeah.
But yeah, but a major change.
that'd be good as an addendum,
Yeah.
because then you could.
Yeah, so just put
separate
it on
a
the
little bit.
addendum, yeah.
Okay,
And the other line the only other part that concerns me is the betterment reserve capacity. At 75% versus 100%, I still am having a little bit of wiggle trouble on that one, because I do agree the state has a number. Once you connect, and it's based on actual flow, Jim, if I'm not mistaken, that number goes out the window. They're not saying for every house on there.
right.
But until then, I don't know if I'd go so far as to go 75% of the total capacity instead of 100% of the total capacity.
Whatever you
But
want.
that's about the only change I'd consider at this point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Madam Chair, if I might
Yes.
add, Kathy McGinnis again. I don't think it's been explained to me anyway, that I understand it. Why are you disputing or going against what the Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection and the Charles River Pollution Control District set forth as gallonage per bedroom?
I
That
just
you're-
proposed we change that.
To
Be-
100%?
To 100%, so that section
Okay.
C1,
That
I
you don't
just
have to-
proposed.
okay,
yeah.
I just
And-
wanna-
But then once they connect, it's the actual flow. It's not we don't reserve 440 gallons.
Right, we reserve half.
Well, technically, yeah, 3/4 to half.
Right.
Depends on when my kid showers. Yeah, yeah.
kids.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, just to start with, leave it there, and then as people connect, we can see. But then after this is over, I'd say we move quick, after this is approved, I'd say we move quickly to appoint the committee and determine the connection fees with the committee. We'll have the committee determine the connection fees.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and since this is a living document, if the committee does have
Yeah.
feedback on
Yes,
any
Yeah.
of this, we could
yes.
certainly
Yeah.
Speaks
revisit.
to you, Jim.
Yep.
So either way, whether it goes to the committee first or here first, we still have plenty of time to alter it because it isn't a bylaw. But Jim, I'd request that we get those numbers figured this way with 5%, 32,000 gallons reserved, yeah.
Hey,
Hello.
Hey, Tom Higgins, 117 Orchard. New to this, if I getting this wrong, just let me know. I just want to agree with everyone here, just don't renege on your agreements with what you already have for Orchard Street. You know, my septic works fine right now. May not tomorrow, may not in 2 years. Do I have $20,000 to just swap something? No one does, especially not right now,
Okay.
right?
Yep.
So just please don't renege on it. It was an
Okay.
agreement. We suffered through Toll Brothers,
Okay.
especially where I was, where Bullard and Orchard meet. They were digging that ledge, you know, for like 6 months, and my house was so tapped with limestone. They paid me some money, wasn't much, to wash my house.
Right.
So others did that, besides breathing that stuff in. So please
Okay,
don't.
no, I just want to, just let me comment. There is no agreement between the town and Toll Brothers
I know
to,
with us.
there is no agreement between the town and the residents that you got stubs. There's no agreement.
Even though we have them.
Even though
Right,
got
you
the
have
stubs.
the stubs.
You have
Right,
the
so that's what I'm
stubs.
saying. I'm trying to understand.
Okay.
Right,
So you have the stubs. Toll Brothers went by,
right.
and you have a stub. There's no agreement between, well, I don't know if you have an agreement with Toll Brothers, I don't think you
Yeah.
do, but there's no agreement between either the town and Toll Brothers for you. There is an agreement for Toll Brothers to supply them sewer,
Right.
but not for you on the way. And there's no agreement between the town and you directly. So I know there's been talk about an agreement and the town perhaps not reneging on this agreement. There is no agreement.
Okay.
I have all the paperwork. So if there's capacity, you are invited and to hook on and pay the fee like anybody else. But we will not withhold capacity ad infinitum,
capacity.
reserve
Right.
for you, for when you decide, because that's an onus. That's an onus on the town.
I
And
don't
there's
agree
no,
with that, but okay,
okay, well,
thank you.
thank you.
Let me just add, it's not an onus on the town, it's an onus on the sewer ratepayers, which are a
Yes, that's
difference
true.
than the town,
That's true,
okay?
yes,
Um,
because it doesn't allow hookups. If we were to reserve that for people, then people that would want to hook up and pay their share now and relieve the rest of them a little bit, because each person that hooks up takes a little bit of the expense off of the existings.
And how much is that, Mr. Schultz? $50 your roll of stamps?
I never, I haven't, I know I never said stamps because I don't use
You
stamps.
said it was
I'm not
a
going to
roll of
dispute the
stamps.
$50, but I haven't used the stamp since
But it
2017.
still relieves existing, I don't care if it's a penny.
Yeah.
It relieves existing, and and we owe a responsibility to the ratepayers.
Well,
So-
actually, you do owe a responsibility, but also, as a member of the planning board who signed this decision and negotiated for multiple years, we made an effort to tell the people on Orchard Street and the surrounding, put up with it. We're going to give you something at the end. It might not have been a legal writing, maybe it was a living document that you're preparing that can be changed, but it's not. It was what the planning board, 5 people sat right there and said, this is what we're going to give you. And then they also provided the major stubs for water and sewer to go down the streets. We didn't include Bogastow Circle in our calculations because that was down the road. But the direct people on Orchard Street, we told them, agreement or not, no council review, we told them that they were going to be able to hook up, and Toll Brothers agreed. So there was a verbal agreement.
But they are able to hook up. They, as soon as we remove the moratorium, when this goes into effect, they are able, they got a huge benefit.
Right.
They got a sewer stub in front of their homes.
But like this
That's worth,
resident said, Madam Chair, what if it doesn't fail now? What if it fails down the road? Or one of the conditions that Mr. Schultz, you brought up, when the house is sold, do it all.
anybody, listen,
I listen all
I-
the time. Please don't keep telling people to listen.
okay.
We do.
I understand, I do understand, but it is an enormous benefit to have that. And to ask the town to then reserve it it doesn't make sense. It's if there is capacity,
So
And
we
then you
don't
make a
owe people
decision.
that assurance that another elected board, a fellow board, made.
Okay, I can't speak to it anymore, Kathy, but thank you.
Jim Duffy, 343 Exchange Street. When the town approves, I'll use the term subdivision. This came up in conversation, there's no timeline for expiration of the approval to connect to sewer. Is there any consideration?
Yes.
That's
to putting
actually
those-
addressed in the policy.
Right.
So we have
We
put that
do.
in on page 4, item 5, I think.
Yeah,
Nope,
they
not
have
item
a-
5,
they
but
have-
there's a place in there. I'm looking for it,
They
apologize.
have,
I didn't see it, but we don't define
yeah, we
the
do.
timeline, do we?
We do. We do. I gotta find it, sorry.
That was the wrong place, but it does address, I may not give an exact timeframe.
Oh,
it might say
it's
reasonable.
for the term of the permit. It's number 2,
There we go.
page 3, C2A. For the amount of time stated in the permit, or until the time of actual connection, whichever comes first.
So we don't have standards, again.
Well, the
the
permit,
permit.
the
The permit.
permit typically has a time frame, 1 or
But-
2 years, and subdivision control law, I think, is 7 years, so.
And we will start putting a timeframe on the permit.
That's right.
That's what we have to do. Nobody has done that prior to this, but something like Glen Ellen could be a multi-year permit.
Understood, we
Something
talk
like
about
your house is
phasing
It's
the
phases,
approvals
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
as
Yeah.
part of that.
Yes.
But
But, so it does give the board the ability to set a timeframe. And we
Yes.
did say we are going to start putting timeframes onto those permits.
Yes,
So that
that's
is
important,
addressed.
that's
Yeah.
good,
That was a
Jim,
critical piece.
thanks.
Just one more thing. Mr. Duffy asked me a question, and Jim McKay, Director of Public Works. I think where the confusion with Kathy and what I just were discussing I had provided documents to town council that from the planning board decisions and the select board votes for Orchard Street, Bridge Street, Acorn Street, and Farm Street, that they accepted the sewer stubs being put on your property. And they all voted on it in favor of it. It was my belief that, and that's what I argued passionately at the last meeting, and town council told me that I was wrong. I think Ellen explained it the way town council explained it, so it's a moral, I think, issue on how this board addresses that. If they're going to vote to take the sewer, and Ellen stated, if we decide to do it tomorrow, the capacity's there for us to do it. It's the issue of when it's gone.
reserve.
The reserve, they're not gonna reserve it for the, I think it's 350 homes. Maybe, I don't think
Yeah,
it's
I
that
think it was
high.
it was like
It's
300 or
It's like
something.
Something like
350
that.
homes that the planning board and the select board approved for the developer to come into Millis and build the project. And those will go away, they could go away.
Pretty close. Yeah, and Yeah, and I think that with the change to the betterment reserve capacity
The addendum?
and the addendum, thank you. I think once we get those, we can take a final vote on it as written. I don't want to do a vote tonight, because I do want to see those
Good.
numbers, Jim. Yeah.
I like
But,
it.
so compute it with those without paying a betterment removed, but with all those that paid at 100%.
Correct.
Okay, so we're taking out that 75% clause. And the other reason why this is important is, in one hand, we're getting complaints that, you know, we have to do more roads, we have to do more taxes, we have to reduce taxes, we have to do so many different projects. And without development, it comes down to overrides. We've been fortunate. We were, before Glen Ellen was built, I thought a year away, 2 years away from an operational override. And that's every year for the rest of our lives. That doesn't go away. With the development we've had, and I do moderately support, I do support smart development. I think that there's certain things we can do that we should do. We have to think about it. I don't want to make it too easy, but I don't make it so we don't get any more. I'd like to see a hiatus for a bit, because we're riding the nice wave of Glen Ellen revenue and the other ones coming in. I'd like to see something set up for the 10 years future for the town, hopefully when I'm not on the board. But without the capacity to add more homes, once we tap that out, the only way we will have enough money to fund schools, fund senior programs, forget about senior centers, to fund police, fund fire, is to cut other departments or raise taxes with an operational override. We haven't had an operational override. No, we had one way back when.
I think we had one.
Way back when. I mean, I'm gonna say it's been 20 years. I think I was new on the finance committee when it went through. But it's been a very long time since we have an operational override. Other towns are doing them a lot. We were very close to having to, prior to Glen Ellen being built. That revenue is what bailed us out and has set us up to be able to pave roads, to be able to fund police, fire, DPW, schools, council on aging, everything. We're talking about what we can increase funding to versus what we have to cut. So without having the ability to do new growth, the only way we can get new revenue is through tax increases.
Well, we
So-
can reduce debt.
Yeah. Yeah, but reducing debt requires money to reduce debt. But anyway, so putting that aside, I think that we're ready to get Jim's numbers and move on with it, and we can take the vote on it and see.
Great.
Mine, I left it here the
Yeah,
other
there
night.
you go, cleaning up. Pays to come back, Kathy. Yeah.
All right,
right.
okay.
Close it, yeah.
All right. So we're going to move on at this point. We're going to go to the approval of Select Board annual licenses for 2023.
This
yeah.
wasn't.
It wasn't a public
It wasn't a
hearing.
public
Actually,
hearing.
it wasn't a formal.
No, the first one was. I looked at the sheet twice, Jim.
Madam Chair,
Yes. Ms.
at
Beret.
this point, we're looking at the approval of the 2024 Select Board licenses. The Select Board have several different types of licenses that are listed here. They're everything from the local licensing authority for alcohol licenses to Class 1, 2, and 3 licenses, which are car sales,
Right there.
common vitular, which is food,
Right there.
entertainment. We even have pool table, retail marijuana, skeet and trap shooting. So we have a little bit of everything the select board's responsible for. So I've provided a list of everybody here. People have gone through the process of paying for their renewal, having any inspections that are necessary for it. I don't know if there have been any other questions regarding the licenses themselves. And I'm recommending approval of all of these licenses, with the exception of 2 that just need to be approved conditionally. The first one, and they're both alcohol licenses. So the first one is Ryan Family Amusements. They have yet to submit a sprinkler and fire alarm report for their inspection, so if you could just approve that conditionally for 30 days until we receive that. And the other one is for Tangerine East Farm. Again, we want to approve that conditionally for 120 days. And final approval will be pending certification of all the necessary building permits at this time. So that's what we're recommending.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we approve the permits as listed in the minutes, or will be listed in the minutes for all those, with the exception of Ryan Family Amusement and Tangerini's Farm. Let's take a vote on that one. Or actually, I'll make the full motion. I make a motion we approve the licenses as listed, with the exception of Ryan Family Amusement and Tangerini's Farm. And for Ryan Family Amusement, I make a motion, I'll include in my motion, that their approval is conditional for 30 days, conditional on the submittal of a sprinkler and fire alarm report for 110 inspection to building commissioner. And then for Tangerini's Farm, I recommend we do a conditional approval for 120 days, final approval pending receipt and approval of all certifications of necessary building permits.
Second?
Okay. It's been moved and seconded to approve all the licenses as listed with the noted exceptions. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Okay. All right, next we have the board and committee liaison updates.
Yep. I had,
What was it?
I had the Charles River Pollution Control District, timely meeting. Was fine. They're changing their bylaws. I didn't even know they had bylaws, so I got their bylaws, I got their changes, and I was initially concerned about them, but I read through them and they're fine. So that's about it.
Okay,
Then they went into executive session and I left.
all right.
I attended the MBTA zoning committee, and it was interesting. There's a lot we have to learn. They've identified tentatively a few areas for further investigation. Turns out about 50% of the town is ineligible due to wetlands and other things, but unfortunately, that 50% doesn't reduce our need any. If you did the 1.5% of buildable land, we're at 56 acres, and it's the greater of that number, the lesser of that number, or 50 acres. So we still need 50 acres. We missed it by a little bit.
That stinks.
But there are some potential areas, there's a lot going on with it. There will be some focus group meetings coming up. There'll be some meetings with real estate and builders and townsfolk and everybody else that's coming in. Those will be announced in a future date. We're meeting
Awesome.
in January to determine that. And the state's already started using a little bit of its stick. Some of the housing authorities in towns that haven't taken the first step, which we did take to agree to
Right.
look at it, not approve it, but consider it. Those housing authorities have had reductions to their state-supported
Right.
budgets, so
I
the
sent-
town is
Yeah,
cutting.
I sent you that article.
Yeah.
Did you see that, did you read that article
I
in the
saw-
Globe?
Yeah, yes. Yeah, so the state's already started
I
making
think they mean
cuts. They're serious about this. So we're trying to get an exact list of what grants and other things would be affected. Theoretically, it could be the $400,000 we want for sidewalks. We don't know, that's the problem. We don't know what's out there that they're going to cut. We don't know what they're going to touch. It will probably become a criteria for all grant applications. Did you adopt the MBTA zoning?
Yeah.
And I can't imagine it would be favorably viewed if we didn't. So there's a lot of stick. I'm not seeing a whole lot of carrot. But the beauty of it is we have to make the land available by right, but that doesn't mean the land has to be readily buildable. So if we don't have sewer capacity, we don't have sewer capacity. They can't make us build houses. If the land is not deemed attractive by a builder for whatever reason,
Oh, well.
that's fine, we made it
Right.
available. If
Right.
the use of the land, because it'll probably be an overlay district, if the use is better as it is than as housing, it'll probably stay as it is. But we have to set it up for the possibility. And I think my goal with it has been to meet the criteria that they set forward, but not make it so that we're going to have quick, rapid development into this
Right.
housing, but make it available by right as we need to get our grants. But we'll see as we get more information, I'm sure opinions will change. Okay.
Okay. And I attended the school building committee meeting. That was pretty much just talking about the whole timeline for the middle high school project and discussing who the chair will be submitted, who we appointed this evening.
Oh, yeah, right.
So that was pretty much that in a nutshell. The next thing we have is approval of draft minutes.
What are the dates that we have there?
12/6/22 is the only one.
I'll make a motion, we approve the minutes from 12/6/22.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes from 12/6/22. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. All right. And then the last thing we have is to consider voting to close all non-emergency municipal offices, library and DPW on the 23rd. Mr. Kaczynski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is just before the board for your consideration. Historically, the Select Board has often voted to close all non-emergency municipal operations for a portion or all of the last day of regular business prior to the Christmas holiday. This year, that day falls on Friday, December 23rd. And in recognition of that, I'm recommending that the board vote to close all non-municipal operations and offices for December 23rd. So, for you for consideration.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to close all non-emergency municipal offices, library and DPW on 12/23/22.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded to close the offices of all non-emergency personnel, library, DPW, on December 23rd, 2022. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas, Millis personnel.
Thank you.
Happy holidays, I should
Very
say.
happy employees.
Yeah.
Right?
Just one quick comment.
Yes.
I did want to thank Ms. Rosenfeld on doing this work. I think you got a little heated in here, but I think this should be recognized, that something's being done here. And no one disputes Glen Ellen, and but, you know, I think the town is trying to do something, and I think that should be recognized, so thank you.
Thanks, Scott.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, so the next thing we will do is we will adjourn this meeting. So I will just make it a motion. I move that we adjourn this meeting to go into executive session to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with union personnel, SEIU, AFSCME, and the fire union. We will emerge from executive session just for the purpose of adjournment. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to adjourn to executive session. I will poll the board. Ms. Rosenfeld?
Aye.
Mr. Schultz?
Aye.
And I'm an aye, so we are now adjourned to executive session. Thank you very much, everyone, and thank you, Millis Community Media, and happy holidays, everybody.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.